Sometimes what looks like strange or confusing behavior on the surface is actually a sign of something deeper. Mental illness doesn't always appear in dramatic ways. It often shows up quietly, through patterns others dismiss as quirks or bad habits. When it comes to conditions like anxiety, depression, or narcissism, the signs may look unusual or even irritating, but beneath the behavior is often pain, fear, or unresolved wounds that shape how a person interacts with the world. One strange behavior linked to anxiety is constant overthinking. To outsiders, it looks like indecision or procrastination. But inside, the anxious mind is stuck in endless loops of what-ifs. Every choice feels dangerous, every action analyzed. This constant mental noise often paralyzes people, keeping them from living freely. It may seem strange that a simple decision takes hours, but it's actually a symptom of anxiety's grip on the nervous system. Another unusual sign of mental illness is emotional numbness. People often expect sadness or tears, but depression can look like nothingness instead. The person may appear detached, uninterested, or robotic. To friends, this seems cold or strange, but it's really the brain's way of protecting itself from overwhelming pain. Emotional numbness is not a lack of caring, it's survival mode. Recognizing it as a symptom can replace judgment with compassion. Social withdrawal is another behavior that often confuses others. A person who suddenly avoids gatherings, ignores calls, or prefers isolation may be struggling with depression, social anxiety, or trauma. To outsiders, it can look rude or antisocial, but for the one experiencing it, social spaces feel exhausting, even threatening. The withdrawal isn't rejection of people, it's an attempt to protect their fragile mental state. Understanding this changes how we respond, replacing anger with patience. One strange behavior linked to obsessive-compulsive disorder is repeated checking. People may lock the door 10 times, wash hands endlessly, arrange objects in perfect order. To others, it looks irrational, even amusing. But for those with OCD, these rituals temporarily quiet intrusive fears. The checking isn't about logic, it's about control. Each repetition provides a moment of relief from anxiety. Recognizing this helps us see the behavior not as odd, but as a symptom of distress. Sleep problems are another hidden sign. Insomnia, nightmares, or sleeping too much may signal depression, PTSD, or bipolar disorder. To others, it looks like laziness or bad habits, but irregular sleep often reveals a deeper struggle. The mind can't rest when it's battling fear or sadness, and the body suffers in return. Strange sleep patterns aren't always lifestyle choices. They can be red flags of mental illness quietly shaping daily life. Excessive irritability is also misunderstood. People assume anger means someone is simply short-tempered, but irritability can be a sign of depression, anxiety, or even bipolar disorder. The constant stress inside builds pressure that leaks out through sharp words or frustration. It may look like rudeness, but often it's exhaustion. Recognizing irritability as a symptom rather than a character flaw creates room for compassion and sometimes the right diagnosis. 8. One peculiar sign of trauma is hypervigilance. People constantly scan their environment, jump at small noises, or struggle to relax. To outsiders, it looks paranoid or extreme. But for someone with PTSD, the body is always braced for danger, even when none exists. This heightened alertness drains energy and creates tension in daily life. It may seem odd, but it's really a survival instinct, born from past experiences that trained the brain to never feel safe. Memory issues can also look strange. Forgetfulness, zoning out, or struggling to recall simple details may be linked to depression, trauma, or anxiety. People often dismiss it as carelessness, but it's actually the brain under stress. When mental illness takes up space, it leaves less room for memory. This is why someone battling internal struggles may forget appointments or details. It's not intentional. It's a reflection of how overwhelmed their mind already feels. Another misunderstood sign is perfectionism. While it can look like ambition or discipline, perfectionism often hides anxiety or obsessive-compulsive tendencies. The need for flawless performance isn't about pride, It's about fear of failure, rejection, or shame. People may spend hours reworking small details, not because they enjoy it, but because imperfection feels unbearable. To others, this may seem controlling or strange, but in truth, it's the visible tip of a deeper mental battle. Compulsive lying can sometimes signal deeper issues. While lying is often seen as a moral failing, for some it's tied to trauma, low self-esteem, or narcissistic tendencies. The lies create a shield, protecting the person from judgment or exposure. It looks strange to outsiders. Why lie about things that don't matter? But for the one struggling, the lies are about control. It's less about tricking others, and more about surviving the unbearable fear of vulnerability. Another behavior often misread is excessive talking. Some people dominate conversations, never letting others speak. This may seem arrogant, but it can be linked to anxiety, ADHD, or even narcissism. Talking excessively becomes a coping mechanism, filling silence that feels threatening. For narcissists, it's also about control. Keeping the spotlight ensures they feel powerful. To outsiders, it's annoying, but it's often a symptom of unrest inside, not just a personality flaw. On the opposite side, extreme quietness can also be a red flag. Some withdraw from speaking altogether, offering only short answers. While shyness is normal, this level of silence may signal depression, social anxiety, or trauma. It may even be dissociation, a way the mind protects itself from overwhelming emotions. Outsiders may call them rude or uninterested, but the truth is they're often fighting a storm inside that words cannot easily express. Sudden bursts of energy followed by crashes are another strange behavior. This roller coaster pattern may be tied to bipolar disorder. During manic phases, people feel unstoppable, talking fast, making big plans, sleeping little. Then just as quickly, they collapse into exhaustion or depression. To others, it looks erratic or irresponsible. But in reality, it's the brain swinging between extremes. Recognizing the pattern as illness, not chaos, helps reduce judgment and opens doors to empathy. Hoarding behavior is often dismissed as laziness or eccentricity, but compulsive hoarding can be linked to OCD, trauma, or anxiety. Each item becomes a form of safety, making it hard to let go. To outsiders, it looks messy or strange, but for the person suffering, throwing something away feels like losing security. Hoarding is not about greed, it's about fear. Understanding this reframes the behavior, revealing the deep emotional struggle hidden beneath piles of objects. Strange eating habits can also signal distress. Eating too little, binge eating, or obsessing over food rules may indicate eating disorders or anxiety. To friends, it may look like pickiness or discipline, but it's often about control. When life feels chaotic, food becomes the battlefield. Each bite represents comfort, punishment, or safety. These patterns aren't vanity, they're symptoms of deeper struggles with self-worth, fear, or trauma, expressed through something as basic as eating. Unpredictable mood swings are often misread as immaturity or bad attitude, but extreme highs and lows can point to borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, or other conditions. One moment, the person seems joyful, the next devastated. To outsiders, it feels confusing, even manipulative. But to the one experiencing it, emotions are like tidal waves, intense, overwhelming, and difficult to regulate. Understanding this replaces judgment with compassion for the exhausting inner battle they face daily. Excessive need for validation is another behavior linked to narcissism and low self-esteem. People may constantly seek compliments, reassurance, or attention. To others, it seems shallow or strange. But beneath it lies insecurity. Their self-worth depends on external approval, because internally, they feel empty or inadequate. This hunger for validation can dominate relationships, leaving others drained. Recognizing it as a symptom shifts the lens from annoyance to awareness of their deeper struggles. Paranoia is a behavior many dismiss as eccentricity. People may believe others are talking about them, plotting against them, or watching them, while mild suspicion is normal. Paranoia taken too far may signal schizophrenia, delusional disorder, or even severe anxiety. It seems strange to outsiders, but for the one experiencing it, the fear feels real. Their brain misfires danger signals, trapping them in a constant state of mistrust. Compassion is vital in these moments. Another strange behavior is sudden isolation after conflict. Instead of addressing problems, some people vanish, refusing contact. To others it looks like avoidance or immaturity, but it may be a trauma response. For narcissists, the silent treatment becomes a weapon of control. For others it's self-protection, a way to avoid overwhelming confrontation. Both look the same from the outside, but understanding the roots changes how we interpret the behavior and how we respond. Self-sabotage is often misunderstood. People may quit jobs suddenly, ruin relationships, or abandon projects just as success arrives. To outsiders, it looks reckless, but self-sabotage often stems from trauma, fear of failure, or depression. Achieving something good feels unsafe, so the mind unconsciously destroys it. This strange pattern is heartbreaking because it reinforces shame. What looks like irresponsibility is often a reflection of deep wounds, silently steering decisions. Excessive bragging is a classic trait of narcissism, but it can also hide insecurity. When someone constantly boasts, it feels arrogant, yet beneath the surface is often fragility. They need to inflate achievements to mask inner doubt. To the narcissist, bragging ensures superiority. To someone with low self-worth, it creates temporary safety. What looks like arrogance is really desperation for recognition. Understanding this helps separate the behavior from the pain driving it. Compulsive apologizing may also point to mental distress. Some people say sorry excessively, even when they've done nothing wrong. To others, it feels strange or unnecessary, but this habit often stems from anxiety, low self-esteem, or trauma. They've been conditioned to believe they're always at fault. The apologies become a shield, protecting them from conflict. What looks like politeness is actually fear of rejection, anger, or abandon replaying itself in every interaction. Another sign is difficulty maintaining eye contact. To outsiders, it looks like dishonesty or rudeness. But for people with autism, social anxiety, or trauma, eye contact feels overwhelming. It's not avoidance, it's protection. The intensity of direct gaze can feel threatening or exhausting. Instead of reading it as disrespect, understanding it as a symptom of discomfort opens the door to compassion. Sometimes the smallest gestures reveal the deepest struggles. Over-control of emotions is also misunderstood. Some people never show anger, sadness, or joy, appearing flat or robotic. To outsiders, it seems cold or strange. But emotional suppression is often a symptom of trauma, depression, or even narcissism. For trauma survivors, emotions feel dangerous, so they shut them down. For narcissists, control maintains their image. What looks like lack of feeling is actually too much feeling, locked away where no one can see. A strange behavior tied to trauma is dissociation. People may space out, lose track of time, or feel detached from reality. To others, it looks like daydreaming or laziness. But dissociation is the brain's way of escaping overwhelming stress. It creates a mental distance from pain that feels unbearable. While it may look odd, it's a survival mechanism, not a choice. Recognizing dissociation as a symptom, rather than a quirk, is crucial for compassion. Impulsivity is another misunderstood sign. Some people make rash decisions, spend recklessly, or leap into risky behavior. Outsiders may see irresponsibility, but impulsivity often connects to ADHD, bipolar disorder, or trauma. It's not about carelessness, it's about the brain's struggle with regulation. For narcissists, impulsivity may also reflect entitlement, acting without concern for others. While the behaviors seem strange, they often signal deeper issues with self-control and emotional balance. Frequent self-deprecation is a strange but telling sign. People may constantly put themselves down, make jokes at their own expense, or minimize their accomplishments. To friends, it looks like humor, but underneath, it can point to depression, low self-esteem, or trauma. The jokes are often shields, hiding real pain. While it may get laughs, it reveals how someone truly feels about themselves, small, unworthy, and unseen. It's not just humor, it's a silent cry. Another unusual behavior is obsession with control over small details. Someone may fixate on how a table is set, how words are phrased, or how routines are followed. To outsiders, it looks picky or strange, but it may reflect OCD, anxiety, or narcissistic need for dominance. Control of details becomes a way to calm inner chaos. While it seems trivial, it's actually a window into how deeply unsettled they feel inside. Extreme sensitivity to criticism is another key sign. Even gentle feedback may trigger anger, withdrawal, or defensiveness. To others, it looks overdramatic. But for those with narcissistic traits, low self-esteem, or trauma, criticism feels like an attack on survival. Their reactions may seem strange, but they reveal fragility, not strength. What outsiders see as arrogance is often fear, the fear of being exposed as inadequate, which their mind works desperately to hide. Another unusual sign is emotional overreaction to small issues. A spilled drink or a minor delay may spark disproportionate anger or tears. To outsiders, it looks dramatic, but often it signals unresolved trauma, stress, or certain mood disorders. The reaction isn't about the small event, it's about accumulated pain finding an outlet. What looks like overreaction is really a mind and body stretched too thin, with emotions spilling out in unexpected moments. Compulsive caretaking is another misunderstood behavior. Some people overextend themselves, always helping others while neglecting their own needs. To outsiders, it looks generous, even noble, but it may mask codependency, anxiety, or trauma. Caretaking becomes a way to feel needed and avoid abandonment. For narcissists, it can be inverted. They demand caretaking from others. In both cases, the behavior seems unusual, but it's deeply connected to unmet emotional needs and fear of rejection. Laughing at inappropriate times can also be a sign. Some people giggle during serious conversations or even moments of grief. To others, it feels strange or disrespectful. But this nervous laughter often signals anxiety or discomfort. It's the body's way of releasing tension when words can't. The laughter isn't joy, it's survival. Understanding this quirk as a symptom of mental distress helps us see beyond the surface to the fear or pain beneath. Another unusual pattern is talking to oneself excessively. While some self-talk is normal, constant out-loud conversations can signal anxiety, stress, or even early signs of psychosis. To outsiders, it looks odd or alarming, but self-talk often helps people process thoughts they feel overwhelmed by. For some, it's a grounding tool. For others, it may point to deeper issues. Instead of ridicule, curiosity and care can reveal whether it's coping or a call for help. Extreme competitiveness can also be linked to narcissism or insecurity. A person who always needs to win, even in trivial situations, may be battling inner emptiness. To others, it looks childish or strange, but beneath the need to dominate is often fear of inadequacy. Winning becomes proof of worth, and losing feels like annihilation. This relentless competitiveness isn't about the game, it's about survival. Recognizing it as a symptom changes how we interpret the behavior. Chronic pessimism is another overlooked sign. Some people always expect the worst, dismissing hope or optimism. To outsiders, it feels draining or negative. But this mindset often stems from depression, past trauma, or learned helplessness. Constant negativity is a defense mechanism. If you expect disappointment, you can't be hurt by it. While it may seem strange to never hope, it's actually a symptom of deep wounds shaping their worldview. Over-controlling conversations is another strange but telling behavior. Some people constantly interrupt, steer discussions, or dismiss others' input. To outsiders, it feels arrogant or rude, but it may stem from anxiety, ADHD, or narcissism. For anxious people, control prevents silence. For narcissists, it maintains dominance. While the behavior frustrates others, it's often less about disrespect and more about soothing their own discomfort. Still, it signals imbalance in how they connect socially. Sudden changes in grooming or appearance can be subtle signs of mental illness. Someone who once took pride in self-care may neglect it entirely, or someone may become overly obsessive about their looks. To outsiders, it seems lazy or vain, but these shifts often signal depression, anxiety, or body dysmorphic disorder. What appears strange on the surface is really the visible effect of invisible battles within, played out through self-presentation. Unusual spending habits can also signal deeper issues. Compulsive shopping, reckless investments, or sudden stinginess may point to bipolar disorder, anxiety, or narcissism. To others, it looks like poor financial choices, but the behavior often reflects emotional struggles. Buying becomes self-soothing, or withholding money becomes a form of control. While it may seem strange, these patterns highlight how mental illness influences even everyday decisions like finances. Excessive need for routine is another misunderstood sign. Some people panic if plans change or become rigid about daily rituals. To outsiders, it looks inflexible or odd. But this rigidity often stems from anxiety, OCD, or autism spectrum disorders. Routine provides safety and predictability. Breaking it feels threatening, not trivial. What seems strange to others is often a lifeline for the one experiencing it, helping them maintain a fragile sense of stability. Strange speech patterns can also reveal mental distress. Speaking too fast, jumbling thoughts, or repeating phrases may indicate anxiety, mania, or neurological issues. To outsiders, it seems odd or confusing, but these speech changes often reflect a brain struggling to regulate itself. For narcissists, unusual speech may include constant self-focus. Instead of judgment, recognizing these shifts as symptoms can lead to compassion and, in some cases, early intervention. Another unusual behavior is compulsive relationship cycling. Some people break up and reconcile repeatedly, or chase drama in every connection. To outsiders, it looks unstable, but it can signal borderline personality disorder, trauma bonds, or narcissistic manipulation. The cycle isn't about love, it's about regulation. Leaving triggers fear, returning provides relief. This strange pattern is exhausting for everyone involved, but it's often a sign of deep-rooted emotional wounds rather than simple indecision. Sudden bursts of generosity can also be misleading. While kindness is healthy, extreme or performative generosity may signal narcissism or bipolar mania. Giving excessively, especially with expectations attached, isn't about love, it's about validation or control. Outsiders may see it as admirable, but the hidden motivation reveals imbalance. The generosity becomes strange when it shifts from compassion to performance, serving the giver's needs more than the receiver's. Excessive sarcasm is another behavior worth noting. While humor is normal, sarcasm used constantly may mask bitterness, depression, or unresolved anger. It can also be a narcissistic tactic to belittle others while pretending it's a joke. To outsiders, it looks witty or strange, depending on context. But behind the sarcasm often lies pain. The jokes become armor, hiding wounds the person isn't ready to expose directly. Obsessive jealousy is often dismissed as insecurity, but it can signal deeper issues. Constant suspicion, checking phones, or accusing partners may stem from trauma, anxiety, or narcissism. To outsiders, it seems irrational or controlling, but inside, it's fueled by fear, fear of abandonment, fear of inadequacy, fear of being unseen. What seems like strange possessiveness is actually a desperate attempt to manage overwhelming inner anxiety. Excessive daydreaming is another unusual sign. Some people spend hours lost in fantasy worlds, neglecting real life. To outsiders, it looks lazy or odd. But this maladaptive daydreaming can be tied to trauma, depression, or dissociation. The mind escapes reality because reality feels unbearable. What looks like simple distraction is actually a form of coping, creating imagined safety when real life feels too painful to endure. Strange patterns of aggression can also point to mental illness. For example, sudden road rage, Explosive arguments or cruelty toward animals may signal unresolved trauma, depression, or antisocial traits. To others, it seems shocking, but aggression often masks vulnerability. For narcissists, it's a way to assert dominance. Recognizing aggression as a symptom doesn't excuse it, but it does explain it, reminding us that strange behavior often hides unseen wounds. Another behavior is overuse of humor. Someone who constantly jokes, even in serious moments, may be masking depression or anxiety. Laughter becomes a shield, preventing others from seeing their pain. To outsiders, it looks fun or strange, but behind the constant humor may lie exhaustion, sadness, or emptiness. Understanding this helps us look past the jokes to the person quietly asking for connection beneath the laughter. Extreme avoidance of responsibility can also be a sign. Some people dodge decisions, commitments, or accountability. To others, it looks lazy or careless, but it may stem from depression, anxiety, or narcissism. Avoidance provides temporary relief from overwhelming fear of failure. What seems like irresponsibility is actually a symptom of deeper distress, where every responsibility feels like an impossible weight they can't carry without breaking. In the end, strange behavior is rarely random. Whether it's withdrawal, over-control, or excessive need for validation, each pattern tells a story of struggle beneath the surface. Mental illness, including narcissism, often hides in plain sight, disguised as quirks, habits, or flaws. Understanding this shifts our perspective. Instead of judgment, we can meet these behaviors with empathy, recognizing them as signals of pain, not just strangeness. Awareness is the first step toward healing.